In 1969, or thereabouts, maybe 68, came that knock on our door. And as Bob Gray mentioned the other day, we first generation Jehovah's Witnesses, we said yes at the door. For some reason, we said yes. And we had Bible studies, free home Bible studies. They weren't free at all, for they were ready to take our eternal life. And we know that the people that came to our door, they were deceived too. So it was like the blind leading the blind. Do you remember your start as a Jehovah's Witness? Do you remember learning the Bible, Watchtower Bible, but the Bible, and the eagerness with which we studied? Many times I'd study 8-10 hours a day. I just loved studying the Bible. This was my opportunity to come to serve God. And I remember the thrill, really for me personally, it might not have been for all of you, but of going door to door and sharing what I had been learning. I remember it well. And I remember going doors and thinking, this may be the last time that these people will get to hear the truth and get into the ark before Armageddon. You know, the ark that Eric talked about, the one that we eventually jump off of, and we get the living water. Thank you, Eric. That was wonderful. Isn't he inspirational? Oh my. I loved the way he did it. I think of it all the time now because he said, Todd, the first thing I want to know, he said, we've been friends a long time. And he said, I don't want you to be handing me a lot of stuff. He said, are you happy? Now, we know that you cannot be happy without Jesus. That there's a hole in our soul that only He can fill. And I don't know how I answered that question to him, but he said to me, he said, I understand you're a Jehovah's Witness. And he said, I want to know. He said, I don't know a lot about what you have been learning, but he said, I want you to tell me. And he said, then I'm going to share with you what I believe as a born-again Christian. So we sat side by side, long-time friends, and the love of Jesus poured out. And when he was done, he said, would you be willing to continue to communicate, to talk? And I said, I'd love that. And he said, do you have a tape recorder? And back then, not many people had tape recorders. And I said, no. And he said, well, don't worry about it. I'm in the business. He sent me a tape recorder and 4 tapes. And those tapes, when you're in darkness, in the Watchtower darkness, and I had to listen to these because I had to give an answer to my friend who I wanted him to know the truth. There is no defending the Watchtower truth. And these 4 tapes were Presbyterian tapes or something, but they were devastating. And I think about it now, in our dark state, that when I was getting these glimpses of light, it was actually painful. It was painful. Betty wouldn't even listen to them. She was so upset. And I didn't want to come here today and give our entire testimony because I have so many things to share. I grew a beard. You don't grow a beard. And I was away in Florida here. I lived in Pennsylvania, and we went down to see Betty's mother. And so we spent 3 weeks down in Florida. And I was growing a businessman's beard. I wanted to have, because that was in right then. And I was a very conservative person. I was about 40 years old. and I was an elder in the Kingdom Hall. When I got back, one of my fellow elders, Carl, said to me, Todd, if you want to wear the beard, it's all right, but we're going to take privileges away. You're not going to be able to pray publicly in the Kingdom Hall anymore. You're not going to be able to be a part of their theocratic school on Thursday night. You're not going to be able to do a lot of things. Well, the beard didn't matter. I didn't even care about the darn beard. I just wanted to see what it looked like. I'd never worn a beard before. I never wore one since. But I shaved it off, not because it didn't matter. But what did matter was the truth. I said to Carl, you're a businessman, I'm a businessman. And I said, we see so many with these nice... I said, I'm not wearing a hippie beard. And I said, Jesus had a beard. Charles Taze Russell had a beard. What is this all about? So he said, well, we're going to have to write to the headquarters. Yeah, the headquarters. And you know the kind of answer that came back with. I didn't know. I was hoping that it was going to be a good, solid, truthful answer. But it wasn't. It wasn't. You know, I heard something recently about an ex-Jehovah's Witness who had found Jesus. And he was asked by his boss, he said, why do you go to this convention? What do you do there? He said, I cry. Precious to the Lord are your tears. Precious. We cry because we know what darkness is. We know that we have been freed. And we're just filled with tears of joy. And then we're filled with tears of empathy as we hear stories of how people have been hurt so badly. This room was quiet at one moment on Friday morning as Dave shared. It was quiet. And now, he's a child of God. Huh? Tears of pain sometimes because we're sitting with someone who has been separated, torn from their family, not allowed to see their grandchildren, whatever the case is. When we were Jehovah's Witnesses, I don't know about you, but I didn't know what born again really meant, and I didn't know what amazing grace was. How could you? How could you, if you have to be on your deathbed saying, do you think I've done enough? Where's the grace? Naturally, we didn't understand it. There was a lot of things that were missing. In Ephesians 2:8 and through 10 and Titus 3:5 and in Romans and all over the place, you can travel, let your fingers do the walking. And it tells us that it's by grace that we've been saved through faith. This is not from yourself. It is a gift of God, not by works, so that no one can boast. You know, when we think of a gift, I'm just wondering if there's anyone here who has given a gift to someone and then took it back a couple days later. That's impossible. We've never done that. But now we're looking to an indescribable love, God, how much He loved us, and He gave us this gift. And when we were Jehovah's Witnesses, we didn't have any assurance, did we? We didn't know, when, how you'll get saved, etc.